Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast Show. You are listening to the first and only podcast dedicated to the business of pharmacy. Hear from independent pharmacy owners, leading entrepreneurs, political strategists, healthcare technology trends, career coaching, interviews about our pharmacy industry, and more. Be sure to subscribe to the show via iTunes and leave us a voice comment from our contact section on the website. You can find all of our episodes at pharmacypodcast.com.
This is Dr. Colin DeWald. I'm a pharmacist with CVS Pharmacy, and you're listening to the Pharmacy Podcast.
Hey, Pharmacy Podcast Network. This is your host, Todd Urey, the Pharmacy Podcast. Hey, excited about today's sponsorship and show because this is finally getting into a position of getting the word out about retail community pharmacy at that national chain level. This podcast today is brought to us by CVS and their careers division, CVS Careers. And we have a guest on who understands that from as an insider, Dr. Colin DeWald. Welcome to the Pharmacy Podcast. How are you today, Colin?
I'm doing well, Todd. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure to be able to talk to you guys about my career path and my experiences. So anything I can share with you guys, I'd be happy to talk about.
First of all, I'm going to put you on the spot. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All righty. What does CVS stand for?
I believe it's Consumer Value Store. I haven't looked that up.
I thought it was that too.
I think it is.
I get Consumer Value Store, and then I get Convenience Value Service. So we'll have to do some Googling to find out. But I just wanted to throw that at you.
Yeah, I really should know that, but I think that's what it is.
That's all right. All right. Well, you know what? CVS is an absolute amazing organization just in scope. There might be people out there that have worked for the organization or used the organization as their primary pharmacy, but 9,700 plus locations. They have 1,100 minute clinics in 33 states. I'm very impressed. 250,000 plus employees, 5 million customers served by CVS Pharmacy each year. This organization really sets the pace for what is community retail pharmacy, and I'm excited to have you aboard because I really like to know from a career perspective if I'm a pharmacist and I'm a P3, P4, I'm an intern, I'm a resident, and I'm looking for what's going to become my very first stage in the world of pharmacy as a career. Let's just throw it over to you. First of all, tell us about yourself. Give us an introduction about Dr. DeWald and how you got to this point.
Absolutely. So let's see. Let's start with how I got into pharmacy. So I originally went to the University of Rhode Island, started in 2010, and I started off as a biology major. And I was actually interested in pursuing medicine, applying to medical school. But it wasn't until my sophomore year that I realized that most of my classmates were in the pharmacy program at that school. And I just started asking them more about the program. You know, what do pharmacists do? How's it different from pursuing medicine? And I just became hooked. I became fascinated with drug therapy. I really liked that it was, focused on the patient. There's so much patient interaction, and I became really interested in the field. So I pursued the requirements to transfer into the pharmacy program, and then basically had an interview and transferred right into the program to be on time to graduate within 6 years. So it's 2 years of undergrad at my school and then 4 years professional. So during that time, one of the requirements was to get some job experience in the field. So what I did was I was driving home from school one day, and there's 3 pharmacies that I pass on the way home. So I stopped into the first one. These are just 3 major retail stores. The first one I stopped into, they said they're not looking for interns. The second one I stopped into, they gave me a card and said apply online, and never heard from them again. And the third one I stopped into was CVS, and they took a real different approach. The pharmacists seemed really interested in what I was going to school for, what I want to do as a career, what my interests were essentially for, pursuing this job. And they were really eager to hire me. And the rest is history. That's how I started my career with CVS. I became a pharmacy technician. And then once I got accepted into pharmacy school, I was promoted to intern. So I was an intern for 4 years throughout the whole professional curriculum during school. And then once I graduated, became a graduate intern, ended up getting a job offer as a floater pharmacist out in Sacramento, California. And then, worked as a floater pharmacist for about 3 months. And then I was offered a position as a pharmacy manager. And that's where I currently am right now. I've been a pharmacy manager for about 7 months.
So the transition from student to pharmacist, that's everyone that's in school right now. That's all they can think about. And exactly. I know with that comes a bunch of stress. So share with us that transition from student to pharmacist. And I also assume that you were already involved with CVS by the time you hit that point, right?
Yeah. So essentially, when you're thinking of, your post-grad life and becoming a pharmacist, you think, you're just going to graduate, you're going to interview, you're going to get, someone's going to offer you a job, and then you're just going to start working. And it's really not that simple, because during your last year of school, you're going to be doing all of your clinical rotations. And that, that can be one of the most stressful parts of your career, let alone pharmacy school. So, you're constantly studying, you're constantly doing projects, you're working with your preceptors, you have long hours. So that whole last year, you're doing so much. And then, at the end of that year, you have to take, the two largest tests of your career. You have to take the NAPLEX to become, a nationally recognized pharmacist. And then you have to take the law exam for the state that you want to work in. And some people take multiple law exams. So there's a whole lot of studying. And basically, how I got through that was, relying on the resources that you have. So what I recommend to any pharmacy student is, get involved in the field of pharmacy. You want to, whether it's joining an organization, starting a career in retail pharmacy, I highly recommend CVS. They're a great company. And if you can get involved before, your last year, just becoming familiar with the job, what the pharmacists do, and just, getting comfortable, counseling and doing all those skills that you're learning during school. That was the biggest advantage I had in terms of making that transition smooth. Next is relying on your team. You have other pharmacists, people that you work with who've been in that role for, 20 plus years, or even just the new grad pharmacists who have just been through what you're doing now. Rely on them, ask them questions. I ask my pharmacist questions about their career every single day. I made it a point to really, get their knowledge and insight about the job. I would say my biggest support system when I was, becoming a pharmacist was my pharmacy supervisor. He's the one in charge of a full district of pharmacy teams, and he or she is there to be your support system through graduating, submitting everything to get your license, passing your tests on time, and then just the transition into the role of pharmacist versus being, an intern.
Yeah, Colin, that seems like quite an advantage. You're coming towards the end of your education. You're already embedded as an intern with CVS, and now you have this supervisor to give you some direction. I think that's every pharmacy student's dream, coming to the end of their scholastic, educational part of their career into their actual professional part of their career. And then offline, you mentioned something to me that I want you to share with the listeners too. You
Sure.
said that you use your rotations as time to prepare for your license exams.
Yes. So what I meant by that was when you're on rotations, you're gonna come across so many different situations that involve pharmacy that you probably won't run into in your career because you're going to be focused on one aspect of pharmacy. But when you're in your rotations, you have so much thrown at you, whether it's in hospital, managed care, whether you're in ICU, emergency care. There's so much going on. And yeah, speaking of rotations, what kind of helped me the most was I actually did a rotation with my pharmacy supervisor. What I'd recommend to any student is, asking their experiential team at their school, the team who takes care of organizing rotations, is there any sort of management rotation that you can get involved in? Sometimes you can reach out to pharmacy supervisors who are willing to precept students and see if they can, take you along for 6 or 8 weeks, however long your rotation is. And they can really show you the management side of retail pharmacy, and they can, tell you about different career paths. So that was something really important. And in terms of studying for rotations, studying for your tests, your rotations and your preceptors will challenge you in many different fields of pharmacy. And don't take that as just a cool experience that you're doing for that day. Use that and remember that information, because that's most likely going to show up on one of your tests. And it's a lot of times it's something not addressed during school. So always, that last year, you got to always be aware of everything that you're learning, and always, keep learning. Just because you're on rotation, you're not there just to pass and get a good grade. You want to keep learning to be prepared for your tests.
I've heard sayings throughout my time helping pharmacists from a technological perspective, as well as marketing, business development. I worked in specialty pharmacy for quite some time. And comments that I've heard from people that were frustrated with their careers is they'll make comments that will say something like the entity, aka their employer, they just didn't seem to care. And I have to take a pause with that, because an entity, or a corporation per se, is nothing that can care. It's impossible. It's an entity. The people inside that organization are what make someone feel like they're cared for or not cared for. And what I'm hearing from you that's very impressive to me, especially with such a large organization, is during the entrance into your career, the very first experiences that you're having as a young pharmacist, which could easily become a turnoff for you for the rest of your life in experiencing something, just like when you're a child, when you experience something from a very young age, then it resonates with you in your mind. It could have been a negative experience, but your RX supervisor, your pharmacy supervisor, really seemed to embrace you. And I think that leads to feeling more confident in what you're doing, which then resonates to the patients that you're serving, which, by the way, is the most important part of your position as a pharmacist. So tell us about those very first days of becoming a pharmacist at CVS.
Yeah, exactly. So again, going back to the relationship with the supervisor, I really felt, cared for, and I felt important by my supervisor. And, some people will see a supervisor as someone who is going to be, nitpicking everything you do, and, you're not doing this right, so we need to fix this. And I don't like the way you're doing this. We have to change this. But it was really, let's work together. Like, we're going to come up with a good plan for, reaching your dreams as a pharmacist. And, I'm here to help you on the way. So, that relationship is really important. And, starting out on day one as a pharmacist, I know every young pharmacist is kind of dreading that day. It's normal to feel nervous. I was with the company for over 5 years before my first day, and I still had the butterflies in my stomach. I was really nervous. The the best advice I have for you, rely on your team. The technicians who work there are your biggest resource for getting through that first day, that first week, and that first month. So it's okay to go into the job not knowing how to do everything, because you have a team who's there to support you, and you should never feel like you're in a situation alone, because you have that team to help you get through any obstacle that you come across, whether it's a patient interaction, a technical thing with the computer system, any sort of roadblock. Your team is there to support you. And it's okay to feel like you're not familiar with everything and you're going slow. And if you're, at CVS, there's times where, medications are due by, because the patients need to pick up their medication at a certain time. If you can't meet that expectation right away, that's fine. Just focus on making sure you're making the best clinical decisions for the patient. Patient safety is the number one thing. So if you're going slow and patients get upset and you have a huge line, that is fine. As long as you're there to make the best clinical decisions, make sure the patient is safe, make sure their medications are correct. That's the goal. So that's day one. And just working on those basics, you'll learn so much in your first few months. You'll pick up things so quickly. So I tend to, I could admit it, and I don't just got to meet you, so I'll admit it to you. I don't care. I happen to be an impatient person. I think I'm probably hyperactive. I probably am ADHD. I don't know. Well, regardless, I always wonder, entering in any kind of career, what's ahead for me. So I always think of what I can do to make it better, what I can make it to make it go faster, make it more quality for myself, make it more quality for the employer, because I feel like, if I become embedded and become a superstar within that organization, they'll look to me for other things. So when I think of pharmacy students who accept their very first position, which is such a blessing and it's such excitement, I also have to put myself in their shoes. And the very first thing I would think is, okay, I'm now a pharmacist at the one and only CVS, which is huge, and that's great. However, I want to know what my leadership opportunities are. So share with us, what is that for like a first-year pharmacist with CVS? Yeah, so I feel like I kind of fall in that category. I want to keep, pushing myself and lead and do everything I can to have the largest impact I can on the field of pharmacy, particularly in the retail field. So coming out of school, I knew that at least my immediate goal was to become a pharmacy manager. And since that's happened, several months ago, I can tell you it's been the most rewarding role I've had with the company so far. Just being able to have, such a powerful impact, not only on your pharmacy team, but on the community. The community knows that you're the leader in the store. It's very rewarding. So one of the things that I've really learned through CVS is they stress leading with heart. And you can take this in any role, pharmacy manager, working up the ladder to pharmacy supervisor, district manager, regional manager. You can take this with you anywhere you go in any leadership position. So leading with heart kind of encompasses fields of leading, managing, and coaching. So I've had so many conversations with all of my colleagues about this. You want to lead by setting the agenda. So kind of letting your team know what's the priority for our customers. How can we improve? What are we focusing on? And then you want to manage your team. You have to align them to be all on the same page. Do we understand what we're doing to execute this plan? What are our goals? Next, you have to set accountability. this was the biggest thing I struggled with as a new manager, setting accountability. And it's probably the most important aspect. Who's doing what? When are we expecting to see results? What is our goal? When can we achieve all of this by? And that kind of leads into execution. As a manager, you have to know, is my team executing this? And that's kind of that's what we're accountable for. Are the behaviors in place? If they're not in place, what are we going to do? How can I show my team to do these behaviors? And that kind of leads into feedback and coaching. You want to provide both fast feedback on the job. You want to give immediate feedback, after a transaction or an interaction, and you want to give organized feedback. So maybe you want to follow up after 2 weeks and tell the team, we're really doing well with this aspect of the job, but we can really improve here. And the biggest thing that we can do to make this enjoyable is have fun with it. That's what I've been doing recently, is having fun with it. Set the goals, encourage the team, but then reward the team when you're doing things well. I remember we had one goal, and I told the team, the winner of this challenge gets a $20 Starbucks card, and that really just put everyone into the gear of achieving that goal. So just have fun with it. Once you're a manager, you can kind of tailor the role to what's important to you and what's important to the company. So it's a very rewarding career.
Colin, I really appreciate you coming on the Pharmacy Podcast to just share your own experience with CVS and the career. It sounds like you are really embedded in the right place at the right time. That's so important for any new pharmacist. So kudos to you and your direction and becoming an intern and transitioning to a pharmacist and then a pharmacy manager. Absolutely spectacular. Anything for our listening audience before we go?
Yeah, just follow your dreams. Retail is not for everyone, but I encourage everyone to get into it and at least see what it has to offer. It's not just the standard retail pharmacist position that everyone thinks. There's many opportunities, and you just gotta get into it and see if it's for you. But I highly recommend CVS as a company, and thinking about them as a possible career for you.
Thank you so much. And I just want the listeners to realize CVS is deep into specialty pharmacy. So if you're passionate about a specific disease state and you start out with CVS in the retail sector, there is always opportunities to advance in your career and move into a specialty position too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Todd.
Thank you. We were on with Dr. Colin DeWald. He's a CVS pharmacist. When you think about your careers, think of this. Millions of lives are being affected based on the path to better health that CVS is delivering, from advising on prescriptions to helping manage chronic and specialty conditions. They're present in so many different places within your community, big and small communities. They're active. They play a supportive role in really shaping the future of healthcare. And we thank you for listening to the Pharmacy Podcast.
We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Pharmacy Podcast Show. Be sure to subscribe to the show and send us a voice message with your ideas and comments from our contact section on the website. Did you know we develop digital health content to assist with business development and marketing efforts? Learn how we can help you drive more patients, physicians, and targeted leads to your website. Contact us today at pharmacypodcast.com.